Hello. So you've decided to make a movie. You come up with a story and now you're ready to film. Well, today I want to give you some tips on how you can make that footage look just a little bit better. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the different cameras or professional film equipment you can use. I want to give you basic tips that anyone can use in any environment that they're in. If you're making a webcam video, a music video, a documentary, a short film, a feature film, you can use these tips to hopefully make your footage look better. Today, I'm going to use the constraints of my own house to give you these tips. So, the first tip I want to give you is location. Location is so important to make your footage look better. So let's do a little scout around and see what some of the best locations are that I have at my house. So the first location that I'm scouting at my house to film in is our library. I think this is a good location. There's a window over to the side that's letting in some light. You can see I have the overheads on right now. I'm going to turn those off. I actually like this a lot better. I tend to want to always have my subject brighter than my background because it kind of makes your subject pop out more. The best thing I like about this location though is the books and the bookshelves. I like to use books and bookshelves a lot when I'm filming because I think they give kind of an interesting background. And if you're using a camera with shallow depth of field, it can really blur those books and it can just look really good for your subject. Now you do have to be careful because if you're using a camera that doesn't have shallow depth of field, maybe a phone or a webcam, then the books might show up in your background and be very clear and be distracting. So just be cautious of that. Check your frame, make sure there's nothing in the background that is distracting or pulls away from your main subject as they're talking. I like to use books and bookshelves a lot when I'm filming interviews or documentaries, and that's because I honestly think that when someone is talking and presenting information, if there's books behind them, it makes them look a lot smarter. And so it's a good little trick to use bookshelves in a background. All right, let's see what other locations I have at my house. So another good potential filming location at my house could be outside. This is in my backyard, and you can see there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of woods that I could film in, and this could be a fun and interesting location if your story works for it. Now, the problem with filming outside though can be this. If you look and see when I'm moving around, I'm getting different sunspots on my face. And so you really have to be cautious about the time of day when you film outside. Usually, I like to film outside in the early morning or late in the evening. I really try to avoid really filming anytime after maybe 11 a.m. to about 5 p.m. because I just feel like you get a lot of this scattered light through the leaves and through the trees, and it just makes it harder to focus on your subject. But if you don't have any good locations inside or really any good interior locations, outside is a good option. Now, you do have to be careful about outside because of sound. If someone's mowing their lawn or there's a barking dog, it can make filming outside a lot more difficult. Let's see if I have another location that we could film at my house. So the next location that I'm scouting for filming is my garage. And I think this is probably my favorite space. Now, you might be watching this and looking around and going, wait, what are you thinking? This is a weird looking space with the lighting and it's just kind of gross looking. Maybe your garage even smells funny. But for me, I think this is the best space with potential for filming videos. And there's a few reasons for this. The first reason is the space that's in here. This is probably the biggest area or room in my house, and so there's a lot of potential. I like to film in big areas because I want to be able to push the camera way back. You can see there's also a door here that could be used for maybe some story beats. Over here, I could do a dialogue scene. And what's great is I can even walk right up into a close-up shot like this. And I really like this shot because it just has a lot of depth behind. It's kind of cool with the dramatic lighting, but this is just the basics. I think I could do a lot more. So now that we have our location, why don't we dig into some camera stuff and see some different settings and a good way to set up your camera for filming at home. Okay, so we found our location, which we're gonna use my garage, and now we're gonna set up our camera shot. The first thing I always do when I'm setting up my camera shot is framing. So I'm using a puppet that I have that kind of has the same skin tone as me to set up this shot. And so I'm gonna actually set this up with my iPhone here just to show that really you can set up good camera shots with really any camera device these days. And so, okay, let's look at some of the different options for framing here. So it's like, you know, do I want to do something like that and be kind of artsy and have his head in the corner? Probably not. It's really distracting. Do I want to go kind of like there? It's okay. Like there's so much stuff in the background, kind of the reason why I picked this location, but there's so much there that it's distracting from him, which is what I want to avoid. Let's look and see what it looks like if I go to the wide angle. So I have the iPhone 11 Pro, so I have these 3 different lenses. That's interesting, but it's just too wide. So there's normal, and then there's a zoom, which I actually like this the best. So I'm gonna go with the zoom angle, and I'm gonna position this to what I think would be a nice little frame here, which, let's see, I think I kind of like something like this. And the reason why I like this frame is because I wanna get his head kind of right on that, you know, you kind of want to split your camera in thirds, and so his eyes are right there. I want to make sure there's not too much headroom. Headroom is like, if I filmed it like this, there's way too much headroom there. So I'm kind of angling it down just to do that. What else I like about this frame is that there's kind of some interesting things happening in the background. I have that kite, there's a light there, there's kind of this tool wall. There's even a post here that kind of adds just a little bit of foreground. So I think this is a really good frame. So I'm gonna go with this. The next step is lighting. So I've kind of already set up the lights in here. So I'm gonna turn off the overheads. I have a backlight that I've set up. I've set up this lamp. And then I have a key light over here. Now, it normally takes me about 30 minutes to an hour to set up lighting, which that's if I'm really going fast. So lighting takes a long time. So I went ahead and did all that for you guys ahead of time so that you didn't have to watch me doing it. So the lighting is now set up and we can see that my phone is very dirty with the lights now on. But we have framing, lighting. The next step is gonna be aperture, which all you do for that when you're using an iPhone is you just gotta click the face and it's gonna adjust your aperture. And that is essentially, you know, gonna get the proper exposure for your subject. Now, if you click it and hold it, it's going to lock the aperture, which that's really important to do if you're gonna do an interview kind of style, because you don't want your aperture changing as you're filming. It can look kind of funny and you can see that when that happens. So I always like to lock it. The other thing that that's doing is it's doing focus, which is our next step. And so focus is really important. You wanna make sure your subject is in focus. So for me, it's like I would hold right here on his eyes, and it's gonna lock focus on his eyes. So I can show you with the camera that I'm using here kind of what focus is a little bit. So see how I'm adjusting the focus here? So this is why I like to use a big space, because I'm all the way back in my garage and I'm able to kind of get this depth where you can see the puppet there, and then I can rack focus all the way to the camera here. So that's the advantage of having a DSLR camera or a more professional camera, is you have shallow depth of field, which gives you that focus range. But I still think the image we set up here looks pretty good. We found our location, we set our camera, and now you're ready to make a movie. Let's quickly review the tips that I had for you today. The first is location. I cannot stress how important it is to find a good location in whatever video you're filming. The next is framing. You want to make sure you set a good frame, not too much headroom, and you want to make sure your subject is the focus of that frame. Then you want to set your lighting and aperture on your camera to make sure you have proper exposure on your subject. Then the last thing you want to do is check your focus. Make sure your main subject is in focus and they're very sharp. All right, these have been my tips for you today. I hope they help you in the next video project that you shoot, and have a good day. Bye.